Happy hour! Woo! Hey, everybody. Welcome in to Hit Points Not Required Happy Hour, a show where we hour and 15 minutes.
Happy.
Yeah, happy hour.
Sometimes happy 42 minutes, however long it goes. But hey, it's a show where we talk quite a bit of nonsense, be that recycling picked up by a bike messenger or the state of Rook's lawn, which we'll probably be getting back into pretty soon. It's coming up on that time. You all should subscribe just to get those updates.
We just had a ton of snow here last night, so not where I live.
Wow.
Certainly not. Yeah.
Yeah,
We get snow very late in the season, so we're nowhere near out of it at this point.
To be fair, it's not Violet's lawn. It's Rook's lawn. But yes, we talk a bunch of nonsense and eventually get around to talking some sort of roleplay-centric TTRPG topic. And we do have both some fantastic nonsense and a fantastic topic for you tonight. And hey, we got a guest to introduce. But first, an announcement. A week ago, we played a fantastic actual play in the Kids on Bikes systems. If you didn't see that, we'll try and link that to you in YouTube, or you can look on the page after happy hour. Check that out. There were so many great things. The Rowdy Roman, the British stepbrother, Angelica, second best grades in school, which is quite an achievement. What was she in? Mock trial, debate, photography club. Hell, I bet there
Model
was
UN, maybe.
Model UN. I would not be surprised if there was stamp collecting in there. So, but let's just go back further, just one night further back. Cue the sad violin music. Do we have? Never mind. We can never hear that on here anyway ourselves. But for the fourth time, the Buffalo Bills fell just short of a Super Bowl appearance. Questionable spot on a quarterback sneak. Samaje Perine is still in the league? MJ, I feel your heartbreak, man. So Buffalo Bills fan base, belly up to the bar. Whatever you want is on the house tonight. Hey, woo, Buffalo Bills, drink on the house.
Yay, football, yay.
Anyway, with that out of the way, you may have seen her running The Hollow, a Call of Cthulhu actual play on the Swole Initiative Network. Please give a warm Hit Points Not Required happy hour welcome to the Mistress of the Macabre, the Queen of Chaos, and all-around badass, Ashley May King.
Yay!
Hello. Can you introduce me everywhere? That was great.
Well, don't get used to it. They only get worse from here. Trust
Fantastic.
me. Trust the cat. They get really, really
resource bad. Like sanity in the games that I run.
So, welcome in. This is the nonsense part of the show. How are you doing? What's going on with you?
You know what? I always love some nonsense. So, I'm so happy to be here. And yeah, always happy to talk anything tabletop. I have nothing though to offer to yards, or I think you were referencing sports before.
A sport of some kind, yeah.
That is true nonsense to me. So
that was mostly for MJ, who is here with us this evening, and unfortunately, their team did not progress, and there's a lot of people around the country that are sad about that, and there is some crossover. We are not mutually exclusive here.
Which sport is
this? That would be the foosball, the Bobby.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. There's big game, New Orleans coming up.
I think I tailgated at a foosball game once.
There you go. That's a very important part.
Yeah.
It's all downhill from there.
So, Rook, Violet, anything to contribute and share what's going on in your lives?
I mean, I just drank half of my drink while you were introducing Ashley May, so...
So happy buttons.
You get like a
And we're off.
on screen. Like
It's okay though. It's okay though, because happy hour started quite some time ago.
Can somebody get a refill for Rook, please? Bring it in there.
We have like production assistants in our homes. That just,
I mean,
next level.
we need somebody just like waddling in. Can we get a familiar? Can your dog come over with like a little tray on there?
oh
I
no.
don't think so.
Oh well. I will tell you, I have something relatively uninteresting to share. As the group knows and is aware, I am going to London in a week or so. We'll be having a thing there. People are welcome. We'll try and jump in the Discord. I will set up I'll set up a little thing. We'll maybe do a little meetup for any of you that are near, in, and around the area. Lord Wainwright might be present. So there's a lot of things going on, and I will have giveaways. For those of you that made it to Castle Fair, I had fancy dancy pens, feather pens to give away. There'll be something equally as exciting. However, that's not the interesting, not interesting, semi-interesting, will let you be the judge of it topic that I had to bring up. It turns out, since January, if you want to go to the UK from the US, where I happen to be located, citizen and everything, take that as you will, you need to fill out another form, pay €78, and get processed and accepted that you're okay to go into the UK. This is a new thing. They just started it in January. So I filled out that form, and it's an electronic form. You have to plug in your passport. You have to submit a photo that includes the shoulders, and you can't be smiling. Okay, fine. This is the British.
Specific.
How dare you smile?
Right? So whatever. Okay. And then you have to answer some questions. And I was going through, okay, yeah, that's easy enough. Okay, that's easy enough. And I get down to a question that basically asks if I have ever been accused of committing war crimes or genocide. And now, I know you're all a little worried here. It was pretty easy. I have not actually been accused.
But like, I could accuse you right now and fuck up your trip.
No, I've already been cleared. So it's too late for that.
Too late.
You can call the embassy.
It's all right
time.
if
I'll
you've
get 'em
done
next
those
time.
things, as long as you didn't
As long as
get
no
caught.
one accuses you. Yeah.
Accuses you. Will it get
Wild,
caught? Getting
crazy.
caught is not a problem. But here's my question. Here's my thought on the whole matter. If someone were to be the type of person that would commit war crimes, would they
tell
not
the
also
truth
be
on the
quick
form?
to lie about it on this form? What's the point of that question? You're going to check whether or not we're lying. I mean, is this whole thing like, hey, you die and you go to wherever it is, and whomever is guarding this door to get into whatever afterlife, and they're like, well, we would have let you in if you had just committed the war crimes, but you lied about it, and that is
That
crossing
was the
the
real
line
crime.
right
Yeah.
there.
I'm not sure if the 10 Commandments mention war crimes, but they do mention lying, I think. So, I
That's a
mean,
fair point. That is a fair point.
Just like,
Genocide's
really,
probably covered in them. I would think,
I would think
Somehow,
so,
yeah.
I don't know.
but it was only part of the
I
question.
actually
To be
don't even
fair,
know if lying.
I think genocide would have been encouraged in the 10 Commandments more than anything else. This is Old Testament Jews, and I'm a Jew, so I know this stuff. They were encouraged to stamp out and get rid of anybody that did not believe in those same beliefs, right? Idolatry. No, we need to unleash the ark on them. Sort of stuff that happened in the Old Testament. That was God mellowed out after quite a bit of time.
mellowed out.
You read that Old Testament, and he's a son of a bitch. I don't know.
it's fair. I mean,
He
I
was
used
just
to be
going through
a
a
really
phase.
angry person in my younger years myself.
I mean,
You
I mean,
just mellow out, yeah.
Now
Oh.
I'm just a really angry person still.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and then what happened?
Yeah, I'm still
What an
angry.
evolution.
I mean, I'm going to London. I'm going to see Hadestown, which is, of course, the modernized story of Orpheus and Eurydice. And in that case, Orpheus turns around and like, well, we're going to take her back. In the Old Testament, they're like, you turn around, pillar of salt, baby. You know, it's
a little less forgiving there. Yeah.
They're not kidding around in the Old Testament.
I feel like there was a pillar of salt in my Cajun cuisine last night.
Please tell us about this Cajun cuisine that was overly salted. Did you create this Cajun? Where did you go to get your Cajun?
It wasn't that it was overly salted. It was just damn good.
Did you make it?
No, I did not. I did not.
Was this a Louisville acquired Cajun cuisine?
I don't know. Harry Starfire is straight from the bayou, so that dirty rice is real dirty. I don't know what that means.
It sounded real dirty. That's whatever it means. Oh,
happy hour, y'all.
Happy hour. Violet, do you have anything to add to the straight from the bayou and war crimes conversation?
I don't think that I do.
Right answer.
I think I'm just gonna sit here quietly and sip my drink.
Now we're gonna need a refill for Violet too, please. Come on.
Yes, please.
Oh my. Yeah, no, that is that is our week. I think those were the interesting things that happened on my end. I don't know.
Nothing interesting to happen to me this week. I'm sorry, everyone.
And anything interesting at all this week?
No.
No.
I started a new habit of so previously.
Habits are good.
Yes, this one not so much. Previously I could only fall asleep to YouTube videos of like video game playthroughs. But I was feeling like, oh, this is so much stimulus before bed. I'm like, 2 feet away, like not even 2 feet away from a screen, just like shooting this stuff into my eyes and going to sleep to gunshots. That's not good, probably. So instead,
were any war crimes committed near you?
Right. It all comes full circle. But instead, I thought, okay, I will listen to an audiobook to go to sleep. The problem being, I pretty much exclusively read horror. And so I was going to sleep to a horror book, one of the first cosmic horror mini books in the genre, pre H.P. Lovecraft even. And if you want to have some weird dreams, that's the surefire way to do it. That's my hack for you. If you want to see the Hat Man standing in the corner, those that know, you know.
If you're interested, jump in the Discord. We will share all of our book reading tips for interesting dreams.
Yeah, be curious. I always read before bed. It is the only way to keep my like anxiety brain from spinning in circles before I go to sleep. I have to put it on something else. So I always read before. Yeah, I always read before I go to sleep. Most of the time I just reread Discworld books because it's like comfort reading. I've read them a bunch of times. But I do read horror sometimes. I particularly like Grady Hendrix, and have read a bunch of there's like My Best Friend's Exorcism, and Final Girl Support Group is like a popular one. And like
that sounds so fun. I'm literally writing this down right now.
Yeah, Grady Hendrix is really good.
You don't have to write them down. We will put them in the Discord.
I already wrote it down.
Tear it up and throw it away.
You are allowed to write it down.
No, there's no writing.
I have a list.
But yeah, I will absolutely.
I can't read or write. I don't know what is this you're talking about.
But yeah, I totally get it. Sometimes it's just what you want to read.
Yeah, sometimes it's comforting, or you just want to feel something.
It's very engaging. It sucks you in, and that's exactly what I want. Is I want something that's going to occupy my brain before I go to sleep, so that I'm not like thinking about like stressful stuff.
Yes, absolutely.
I have a suggestion.
That's another way to do it.
There is also that. I mean, a lot of people do go the true crime podcast route, which is also in a very similar, maybe more realistic sort of way.
I can't do that. That freaks me out. I tried to be one of those people, but I did start having like recurring nightmares about actual serial killers, like of Ed Gein chasing me in a parking lot. And I was like, that's not a good way to wake up anymore, is being afraid that my flesh will be turned into a lamp. So I stopped doing that and instead just listen to like, fictional horror.
Yeah, I like a lot of horror stuff, horror books and movies and stuff like that. I don't especially like very realistic things, like where it's like a thing that could absolutely really happen to you, like home invasions and stuff like that. I can't do it. Give me a horrible monster doing unspeakable things and I'm there. But like real people doing messed up shit, no thanks.
Yeah, exactly. I can confront fake horrors all day, every day, but I try to stay away from the real ones because they too much.
It's too real.
Yeah.
I understand. It's too close to war crimes.
Oh, God.
And, everything always comes back to that.
Everything always comes back to war crimes, I think, is the statement that we're apparently making tonight on Happy Hour.
So glad I could be here for this. It's been fun. I've got to sign off before my
to be fair, as much as we support war crimes, genocide is off the table.
Wow. Okay, moving on.
On that note, somebody's got to clip that. That is going to go on the Rook reel right there.
Yeah, we'll crop it so it's just Rook saying.
Exactly.
War crimes, just throw them in the bucket.
No.
Everything, just throw in the bucket.
Oh, anyway, that feels like about the right amount of nonsense for me. I don't know how the rest of y'all feel, but I also don't really care. So with that transition, we wanted to talk a TTRPG topic for you this evening. And what we have is a person, a guest on the stream, happens to teach TTRPGs to therapists to use at work. And I really want to know more about that. How does that work? How does it not work?
I am dying to know more about this.
It is a fascinating topic, so I will stop talking. No, I won't. I'm just kidding.
I'd be amazed if that happened. But go ahead.
It is a facet of tabletop that I had never considered until I was approached by an organization that certifies game masters to then go out and use that practice therapeutically. That company is called Geek Therapeutics. I really suggest you check them out. They're really wonderful. But yeah, I guest train with them on occasion, teaching the game system Call of Cthulhu, which, if you're unfamiliar, is very much a horror game founded on this like cosmic horror kind of genre, but really you can bend it to work with whatever you like. And there's a really fun mechanic called sanity that you lose. And so that in particular, with the tie-in to mental health education, is it can be fraught, but I think it's also like a great opportunity to discuss some of those things that are somewhat stigmatized and to look at them in a new light. And that's kind of the focus of what I try to bring to that particular education. But yeah, it's really fun. I think I've run the same scenario now. God, I don't know how many times, but it has never ended the same way twice, which is wonderful. And I find that the therapists who I am introducing to this game, they're new to the system, and so I'm teaching them as we're going, usually fall within like two categories. They're the therapists who are very focused on collaboration and figuring it out as a team and making sure that everybody gets their chance to kind of like submit ideas and, oh, how can we solve this together? You know this, okay, and I know this, let's connect, and et cetera, et cetera. And then there's the therapists who use it as an opportunity to let fucking loose and just be their most like chaotic, unhinged, just like problem student selves. And I find that most of them, they may start in category A, but most of them shift to category B by the time that we get kind of to the climax of everything.
Do you
But it's
feel
really
that's
fun.
do you feel that's like human nature, or is that your influence on the group?
I mean, there's something to be said for when we are frightened, when we're in a state of fear, our brains are literally on kind of autopilot. You know, our vagus response takes over. And I think that your fight, flight, fear, fight, flight, fawn, freeze. um, that kind of takes over, and you know, you kind of react within one of those, um, or outside of one of those kind of structures. But I think there's something so honest to how people behave once they're a little bit heightened, once that cortisol starts like flowing a little freer. And I think that kind of brings it out of folks, and you really kind of see, okay, this is someone who's a problem solver, who's going to just like, you know, figure this out. They're still dedicated to this. This person's going to run for their freaking life. Like it really brings out all these sides of people and sides that they may not expect from themselves too. And I think that's what I enjoy the most, because I see so much potential for that application in people being able to explore those facets of themselves and those facets of problem solving in those situations of themselves. You can confront troubling, disturbing, horrifying things while still being in a safe place yourself, you know? And that is, I think, can be very cathartic. So I think a lot of times people may raise their eyebrows at the fact that like horror for like therapy, that's crazy. But I truly think that there is a lot of application there, and there is a real catharsis that I think that we experience through horror. And in a way, I think that's why we seek it out, the people who do, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really popular genre, so there's definitely something there that we connect to being frightened, that primal state of our being. Have you gotten a lot of feedback? What is the like the post analysis? Do the people you teach come back to you and say we used it and this was great and all that? What's the feedback you get?
Yeah.
Apparently not. As Ashley May is now frozen, so that's great. Also, how did we come up with like an actual real topic on this show? What happened there? How did that come about? Because I'm concerned.
Hey, can you see me? Can you hear me?
No, not at all. How about you? Can you see us? Can you hear us?
Well, I mean, I can see and hear everybody.
You are 100% good, Ashley May. You're good.
Okay. Wow.
But I think the stream froze up for a second.
Okay.
I don't know if we missed anything in there, but we did. I don't know. It was just luck of the draw that we came up with an actual real topic to discuss on there. It happens every once in a while. I was just, inspired while looking at that survey that I had to take to get into the UK.
Amazing. Really amazing.
Yeah, anyway, we were going to get some feedback. What was the feedback you've received?
Oh, yes. I think I've had quite a few converts to the game system. Because I do think that it's if you've never played it, or if you've never run it, or if you've never run a game, period, I really think it's a great starter game for new game masters, because it is so malleable. The rules are not particularly crunchy, and they are very self-evident. The skills aren't ambiguous. They are exactly what they say they are, because they're so founded in this sense of like academia. So like, if you're doing, for example, insight, it's a psychology role because that's what you're using. And so a lot of people, like, it's very easy to jump into. And yeah, it's very easy, I think, to run because you can shape it to whatever style of narrative most resonates with you. It is obviously based on the work of like H.P. Lovecraft or inspired by that. I won't get on my H.P. Lovecraft sucks soapbox, but I'm happy to.
But that soapbox exists.
I'm ready anytime to jump up there. You say the word. And that's, I really enjoy elements of cosmic horror, and there's so much more to that genre than that particular author as well. But I really enjoy more of I like Victorian horror, I like a slow creep. I like this kind of this unease that just sets in, that like things are just they seem too right on the surface, that something has to be wrong. And that kind of, that's what I really like. And that's kind of what I run and what informs the narratives that I like to tell through it. And so, yeah, I've had a lot of folks come back and say that like, it's very easy for them to jump into, and that, there is a lot of value, particularly for those who have experienced trauma in some ways, to confront truly challenging things while still having the sense of safety of being at a table or on a screen, and using the myriad of safety tools that exist in tabletop, which if you're running horror you absolutely need to use. I love the deck of player safety, and I use X cards as just kind of a baseline. But yeah, so I think there's a lot of opportunity there. I may have answered it roundabout, but I think I got there, right?
Sure.
Did I answer your question? Okay.
Yeah.
You used so many words that went right over my head. Like, if it has more than 2 syllables, it's probably not for me.
I mean, that's interesting. From the very first thing that we ran on this channel was a horror setting, which was
indeed
run and came up, and you came up with it, right? So that's
tell me about it.
Oh, we ran a 10 candles session. If you're familiar, I'm sure you
yeah.
obviously are. And at the time, I had just downloaded Fallout 4 and played it for the first time. So I was like, yes, we are doing Revolutionary War 10 candles. Let's go. And
hell yeah.
It turned out pretty good. It was all right, I guess. It was all right. It was pretty fun.
Preston would be proud of you.
It was a little more than that, though. I mean, because the scenario in particular was revered.
Was Cthulhu-ish tentacle monster meets Boston.
Well,
so he's carrying Duncan in all of his many tentacled arms.
But no, you would have, very similar to what you were describing before. Basically, what it was the ride comes through, they're coming, and then nothing happens, and it's like, what's going on?
Where are they? And then
slow burn
creepy.
of what exactly is happening and who's going on and where it is, versus you just start off in the middle of tentacles,
Right.
Amazing.
In the middle of tentacles.
Which, in media res is a very valid way for horror stories to start as well. But yeah, I love more of a, my favorite
tension and the
my absolute favorite piece of horror media is John Carpenter's The Thing.
Oh my god, yeah,
it should be
so good.
It's so good, and it's structured so perfectly, and it just has this pace that like before you even realize it, you are like unsettled and just kind of like waiting for the next thing to happen. No matter how many times I watch it, no matter how hokey the effects may look now, even though, groundbreaking and everything is practical. So major kudos to that. It's so perfectly structured, and it so perfectly captures that slow creep.
For sure.
And I feel like that's so important in horror. You have to establish normalcy to make the stakes, to make something that players want to get back to or want to preserve, and then subvert that to show you what is at risk. It's why
So MJ's asked a question. How is this application becoming more mainstream, and also what are the specific uses of TTRPGs in therapy? How do they help people solve their problems?
So I do want to give the stipulation. I am not personally a therapist,
Mhm.
but I
Play one on TV.
no,
Well,
but
on
I
TTRPG.
train them, and I have a lot of them myself. So um,
It's
I
always an excellent qualification. Yeah.
like, but I do know, I've spoken to a lot of the folks that I work with and a lot of the professionals in the field who do use it very prominently with their youth patients, and specifically those who have either grown up very neglected or abandoned or independently, to kind of show a level of trust and collaboration. Dungeons and Dragons is a wonderful tool for that because it does have this, you have this real sense of party dynamics and like party loyalty. And once you realize that people have complementary skill sets, the bard is going to be good at things that the druid isn't, and vice versa. And once they realize they have to kind of play on each other's strengths and depend on that, and that they can depend on that, that really carries over into real life, I think, a lot of the times. And that just, there's a lot of emotional lifting that we do, even in a non-therapeutic game. I think just at a normal tabletop game, we go through like a milieu of emotions, and that is, I don't think we realize it sometimes, just like how much we are buying in, and how much that is like also feeding our own like mindset, and the way that we approach problems, and the way that we approach trust, and the way that we, kind of maybe champion for ourselves a little bit more. So I think those things can have a real effect. That's I've There's also, adult practice. I've worked with folks who exclusively work with veterans, as well, who also really benefit from this style of play. There's some statistic that I'm going to probably very poorly quote, that I think you absorb material 70% faster if you learn it through play, than if you are learning through some other means, because you're engaging different parts of your brain and you're applying it as you are learning it. And so these, yes, you're learning mechanics and you're applying those, but you're also learning and applying social skills. And that too really builds. And I've seen, I know quite a few veterans who really lean into tabletop to deal with a lot of their own, trauma, and confronting things that are very challenging. Um, and also in a big way learning to lean on others and not necessarily feel like they have to sacrifice any part of like themselves or put themselves in harm's way in order to be valuable to a party. You know what I'm
A
saying?
team, yeah,
Exactly.
exactly. I
Um,
also, when I heard about this topic that we were doing, weeks ago, um, by that I mean like 6 hours ago. No, uh, when the immediate thought that I had that came to my mind was people that may be very introverted and in need of social interaction, but not feeling safe enough to have that social interaction on a larger scale, can probably do that very well through D&D or TTRPGs as therapy. That was the immediate thought that I had as to how it could be applied.
Absolutely. And that's something that I try to take very seriously as a GM, especially when I'm running for strangers at like a table game at a convention or like a paid game online or like any of those type things. And I encourage other GMs to do this too. Like, take note of the balance. And if there's someone not really speaking as much, I like to give them exclusive information and a puzzle and something that they have to solve, to then they have information the rest of the group needs. And that value then gives them cause to use their voice and cause to become a integral part of the team that maybe otherwise they would feel maybe distant from. And I've seen that work so effectively, where a player who at the very beginning is maybe shy, they show up alone, whereas other people are kind of already know each other. And that's an awkward situation already. And I understand that hesitancy, and I really empathize with that. And like, seeing them then kind of like becoming the person leading the charge and directing kind of where the team is going and everyone following along, because like I think there's that real, exactly, like it can bring out so many different sides of you, and it can be an opportunity to safely put yourself out there, because it doesn't have the ambiguity that I think leads to a lot of social anxiety. You know what the goal is. You know what the expectation is. You know who you're supposed to be in this situation because it's on a piece of paper. Whereas I think a lot of social anxiety comes from ambiguity about any of those 3 points. And you can really lean into that and use that as a tool to then like get really comfortable. And I really love running for folks who don't know each other at all and who I don't know at all, because my favorite part is figuring out what hook is going to get each person. Like, some people are NPC talkers. They just want to talk. They want to be the chatty one. They want to talk to every NPC. They want to know their life story. Fantastic. Some folks are more drawn to the cerebral things. They want to solve clues and find intel and figure out what's going on before I want them to. That's kind of their driving force, right? They want to outsmart me and I let them. And then there are those who just want to shoot something. And you know what? I let them too. Like, and
there's a place for you.
But there's figuring that out at a table with strangers and everyone not knowing that about each other and seeing that discovery happen in real time, I think is so beautiful. And it's definitely emboldened me in like my own life to not feel as intimidated when I'm in a room that I don't know, or if I don't know like a bunch of folks, I have confidence in like, all right, let's figure them out then, instead of maybe like the natural inclination that I think a younger Ashley May would use to maybe like shrink back a little bit more,
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's similar, or it's an application of improv, right? A lot of people take improv courses. A lot of people get started in improv to be able to talk to people, feel more comfortable public speaking. But as you play different characters and you embody yourself, you figure out more about yourself as well as how to interact with other people. And when you take that over to TTRPG, which is basically a super long form improv, but you have a structure, you have a sheet in front of you that tells you have certain characteristics. So, okay, I just need to do this. I don't need to make that part up. I think it becomes a little bit easier, and it makes it easier to talk to people, unless you're like me who just won't shut up.
Chuck doesn't need help with that. Yeah.
I need help with other things. There's plenty wrong with me. Don't you worry.
Well, I know some great therapists.
Learning a whole lot about my own DMing style tonight, which is mostly just drinking a lot and talking shit to people. So
really beautiful.
I'm learning that there's a whole lot more to DMing than maybe Rook Vellum.
There doesn't have to be.
There doesn't have to be.
But there can be. There can be actual contribution to society.
But there's also, I will say, on the flip of that, there is over preparing, which is how I started. So also speak to my own mental health for a second. I'm a person with obsessive compulsive disorder. I have very like narrow uh, perception sometimes about what the right thing is or how things are supposed to go. I set expectations, and when things start going wrong, I get so frazzled and I just totally spin out. And I think that's a common thing with a lot of folks with OCD. Um, Running games and being so my very first games, I look back and it's the same game that I've run 20 to 30 times now. It's what I use to instruct at Geek Therapeutics. I've run it for a bunch of other games. It's the very first game I ever wrote. And the first iteration of it was so scripted. I was like, fantastic. They will come in this room and I will say this and they will say this and I will respond with this. And immediately, first 5 minutes, we're off the freaking script and I'm panicking because I had a certain expectation for how things would go. Now, 8 years later of running games, I have just recently kind of realized that uncertainty and that element of things going so outside of my scope of expectations and the fact that things have never gone the same way twice is what thrills me the most about it. And it's what I look forward to the most about it. And it's become like this accidental exposure therapy for me that has honestly, I think, helped me in ways that I'm just now kind of realizing. Because, I look back on my super old notes and I'm like, oh my God, this is versus like now I approach things with a much more, I don't quite just drink and talk at people, but I do have a much more like flexible outline than I would have, when I first started. And it has helped me so tremendously and that has carried over into other elements of my life where it's okay if things don't go to expectation. I know I trust myself to figure it out regardless.
It's so interesting to me how differently people will DM games. Like people really do approach it so differently, and it can, and of course, change over time and change with the table you're at. I tend to be so the opposite of that. Like you're in a room. I don't know what you're supposed to do here. You tell me. Like I get flustered when characters expect me to guide them somewhere. I'm like, I literally don't know where you're supposed to go right now.
Violet,
I had no plan for that.
Violet ran a game on this channel where a boat sank and the party was on a lifeboat, and that was the entire story.
That was it.
That was
you're
it.
in a boat.
And it was
You're in a
fantastic.
boat.
You can't see any land. It's just
You're
water
in a
all around
boat.
you.
Now
do you
what?
do?
And just
I
sat
love
back
that.
while the players are just like doing X,
I spoke
Y, and
very
Z.
little during that game.
It was
and
so
that's my
funny.
ideal.
It
That's
was
my
amazing.
Ideal.
That's a beautiful conceit
It was
for a game.
it was
truly.
by design.
But like
Here's your one shot.
everyone's so different though. And like and it's not like I think everyone should DM that way for sure. I enjoy many, many games with DMs who their style is extremely different from mine. I don't know if I would like to play in one of my own games, to be honest.
You would have to come up with stuff.
Yeah.
but
yeah, it's always interesting to me though how people approach it so differently.
I'm obsessed with looking at GM notes, like how other people keep their notes. That is when I meet another GM like in person who I know is running a game, I'm like, can I look at your notebook? I want to see how you do it. Because everyone has such a crazy different process about it.
I had to beg Jacob for notes recently, and he was just like, they're so messy, they're not going to be useful to you. I'm like, give me your notes. And he finally gave them to me, and he's like, I'm sorry they're so messy. I'm like, don't you apologize. This
Creative
is what I
mind
want.
work.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the same is true for characters too. For when you bring the character, and this is for everybody out there. When you bring a character, if you have into especially a campaign, if you come in, I want this story and this arc, and they're gonna, as they level up, these things are gonna happen to them. You are yes. I'm only minorly looking at you, Rook. It takes away from that flow of the story, and you try and push the story to make your story happen, as opposed to allowing the story that the party is telling and everybody is telling to evolve, right? If it goes in a different direction, goes in a different direction. I like to write kind of extensive backstories, but they're backstories. This is everything that led this character to be the psychological mess that this character is right now. And now we're going to figure out
from this point on, who knows?
Exactly. But that's me. Everybody has a different style, but I've played in a lot of campaigns where you could tell people were a little upset that it wasn't letting them do the things and get to the things, and they had to try and make up reasons why they at a level up they would take these things and all that, even though it makes no sense based on stuff. So the less that you have preconceived for a future notion, I think the easier it is. And it's okay to just go with the flow and make stuff up. And if you don't know what's going to happen and it becomes disjointed, if it's not mechanically optimized, it's fine. Who cares? It's interesting.
I feel like there's such a difference in genre too, depending on what you're writing for. Fantasy, I think, can be really open-ended, and mystery and horror, like I put those two kind of in the same category, needs like some rails, but definitely not as many rails as my initial inclination was. So now I approach it very differently, where like I have a timeline of what's happening behind the scenes. I don't plan what's happening with the players, but they will naturally interact with this timeline of this like evil entity that's doing some evil deed, etc. That's all I need to keep track of. That is happening regardless of their actions. Their actions may influence certain elements of that, but they are on a mission. Like evil is on a mission to do evil things. And so that's all I have to keep track of. And then whatever they're doing and however they kind of like dip into that timeline, that's when it gets spicy, and that's when it gets fun, and that's when they get intrigued, and that's when they want to like those timelines really converge a lot more and more and more. But yeah, it's never try to anticipate what your players are going to do, because that means they're going to do the complete opposite immediately. So
yeah, that like is so exactly like when I have run like a more substantial campaign where I can't exactly just be like, you're in a boat, have fun, but I have to give them a little bit more than that. But that's exactly, I think, sort of the approach, or the way I think about it anyway, is that like I have an idea of what is going to happen in the world if the players weren't there, like what other things would be happening. And that's all I need to know. And then they're going to do whatever they're going to do. And I just have to know how that's going to affect what everyone else, you know what I mean? Like I need to know what the world is doing without them, and what they do, like we'll see what happens when it happens, but I don't need to think about that really in advance. I like to think of the GM basically as playing the character that is the world. And that's a character that then interacts with the other characters.
I love that idea. I feel like I have like a very similar philosophy, but different. But I think they're founded so much on the same like idea, where I think of myself as playing entropy. Like I am the tending of this world towards decay and chaos, and they must stop me. But it's that same thing. Like you are the world. You are all of the things that comprise that and what it is leaning towards in a way. And so, that's really beautiful. I love the way that you phrase that. And it made me realize that I, kind of have a very similar idea, but yeah.
I mean,
it's so funny. My next session 0, I am actually going to open by saying, I am entropy, I am chaos. Stop me, fuckers.
Amazing.
Truth. Rook is entropy.
I'm going to write that down before I forget it.
Please. That won't be in the Discord. You need to write that down.
I can't read or write. I've said that numerous times.
Another one for Rook, please. Another one. But I also think interesting from a from like a therapy point of view is that playing a game and representing these things and being able to, especially now, being able to find and sometimes start playing at tables that are comprised all of people that understand and have a certain view of the world allows you to be freer and express more of yourself, whatever that group or that thing may be. Trying to find that and group that together and allow you to be free, I think is very cathartic for a lot of people. Start that it's okay to be who I am in this world and see other people, see people running the games that are like the players. I think that's a big thing.
Absolutely. I think player chemistry and table chemistry is so important. And if you're ever at a table that makes you even an ounce uncomfortable, leave it. There's so many people who play now. There's no scarcity of players in this world. Like, you can walk away from that table. Like,
yeah, I feel like if there's one thing we've said the most times on Happy Hour when we're having TTRPG related discussions, it's about like, maybe that's just not the right table for you. Like, if this isn't working out, probably not the right table. Go find someone else.
And I say that purely as someone who has walked away from several tables.
For sure.
But like, it's important to preserve. There is something very raw about role playing, and just like playing make believe and imagination. We're tapping into like a very youthful and like innocent side of ourselves, and that part of us has to be safe to explore these things and to play. And if anyone is threatening that safety at any point, fuck them. Like,
Exactly.
go play with someone else. Like, it will be okay. Like, I needed to hear that several times for me to feel like it was actually okay. And it so is, because it gets so much better when you find the party you're meant to have found. And it just feels so right to be yourself.
And don't be afraid to engage that fuck 'em button the second you feel that, like, have a session 0. Don't even for a one shot. There should be a portion of time that's set aside at the beginning as a session 0. And if something feels off in that set, be expressive. Bring the things that are important to you, that you've learned are important to you in life or whatever. Bring those out, bring those with you. And if there's something that feels like it does not mesh with the other people there, just mash that button and get gone. I mean, there's no reason to try and make stuff work and do stuff. You should be able to express who you are and enjoy your time at the table.
There's so many more tools and focus on player safety. I think even just in like the last like 3 years, I feel like it's really boomed in the attention that folks are giving to it. And I think that is so important. And if you're at a table where folks are not using safety tools and you feel unsafe, fuck off. Like, get the fuck out of there. Or like start that conversation, talk to the GM. And like, I don't think that is a conversation that like you should be afraid to have. And also, I want to empower GMs. Your safety matters too. People can cross your lines as well, and you can stand up for yourself. I think a lot of the times you feel like, I tend to feel as a GM, like, since I'm telling the story or like I'm putting them in this world, anything they can do whatever, and I just have to kind of roll with it. And that is not the truth at all. Like, GMs can use their X cards as well. GMs are allowed to have boundaries. Like, I feel like that was something else.
The GM is also a player at the table.
Yes,
yes.
Even if you're you're
still a fucking person who has to sit there at that table. So it still counts.
Protect yourself.
There is that. So we are close to the hour now. We have it has been a fantastic discussion, one of the most meaty discussions that we have had, actually staying on topic for the most part. I don't know how that happened, but it did. So last call, everyone. If anybody has anything to shout out or say anything, now is the time.
Or forever hold your peace.
That'll be later. I have a wedding to perform later this year. We'll get into that when that time comes. We don't need that drama here, please. But yes, with that, please jump over to the Discord if you are not already in it. And we will post some of these links and book lists and things that you should be reading right before you go to bed to have the most wonderful dreams
Most
ever.
interesting dreams.
I got you.
And everybody have a fantastic evening, night, day, whatever time it is for you. We love you all. And remember, hit points are not required to enjoy a tasty beverage. Night. That's a tasty beverage. It doesn't matter. Maybe they'll sponsor us. Who knows?
Maybe.